It's a sad, sad day for Cyndi Lauper's loser boyfriend, David Wolff, but it is a fantastic, phenomenal day for Mrs. Vance's cool husband, Tyler Vance. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I'm your host, Tyler Vance himself, and you're not. It's February 2nd, 1985. Last week, Hillbilly Jim made his in-ring debut, defeating Terry Gibbs. Mike Davis and Tommy Lane announced their retirements from professional wrestling, due in large part to the massive amounts of corruption found within Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And Magnum TA set his sights on Chief Wahoo McDaniel's NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. I'm always in the mood to expose Jim Crockett Jr.'s blatant corruption, so hopefully justice can see the light of day this week on NWA Worldwide Wrestling. That goof, crotchety David Crockett and Tony Schiavone are on commentary once again, and they call the action between that deluded idiot himself, Magnum TA, who's teaming with crying Ricky Steamboat to face off against Frank Lang and Joe Young. I say Magnum is deluded because you must be if you A, think you're going to be able to get a shot at the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship just by asking, and B, that you might stand a chance of defeating Chief Wahoo McDaniel at all. Steamboat is the one to start things off for his team, but he gets caught in a headlock from Lang early on and can't do much to break free, so he has no choice but to tag in TA. Magnum TA seems to be in better form than his partner, as once he's in the ring, he is able to hit Frank Lang with an arm drag takedown, but makes a huge mistake by allowing Lang to get too close to Joe Young, which results in a tag. Look at me, I'm Magnum TA. I don't know what ring awareness is. Can I have a shot at the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship? While lacking in intelligence, Magnum TA is a powerful man, and he manages to knock Young down with a massive forearm. A double elbow from both Magnum and Ricky Steamboat follows before the duo then hit a double drop kick. From there, Magnum TA takes home the win for his team following a belly-to-belly suplex. Backstage, crotchety David Crockett has Dick Slater with him, who can't seem to accept the fact that Terry Funk absolutely murked him a few weeks ago. You see, Slater has been getting irate more and more every single day due to the fact that James J. Dillon, the man who organized the hit on Dick Slater, doesn't seem to understand how dangerous Dick Slater truly is. That's because while you may be dangerous, Funk is lethal. Despite the death wish that Slater has, he vows that he'll get his dirty hands on both Dillon and Funk before it's all said and done.
Dick Slater is still here. Dick Slater is still talking, and Dick Slater is still walking.
More tag team action follows as the shame of the USA, Don Kernodle, teams with his loser brother Keith Larsen to face off against Doug Vines and Ben Alexander. The Kernodles have the Soviet-Russian national flag with them, but no, they haven't crossed the Iron Curtain. Instead, they're blatantly showboating the stolen property that they forcibly took from Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Criminals! When the bell rings, the brothers demonstrate decent enough teamwork with frequent tags, all in an effort to keep their opponents isolated from one another. The less experienced Keith Larsen, though, gets caught in enemy territory and suffers at the hands of Alexander and Vines. How the hell does Don Kernodle and his loser brother expect to do any kind of damage to the Russian Bear and his nephew the Russian Nightmare with a performance like this? Larsen is able to kick out of a neckbreaker and gets a desperate tag to the shame of the USA. And as Kernodle goes to town on his opponents, here come the Russians. The Soviet Union enforces the death penalty, but somehow Don Kernodle is able to hold back the tidal wave, which is Ivan and Nikita Koloff, single-handedly preventing them from regaining their stolen property, while Keith Larsen is presumably hiding underneath the ring. And then, to make matters worse, crying Ricky Steamboat and Magnum TA insert their ugly mugs into a situation that has nothing at all to do with them, grabbing the Soviet Union flag and stomping on it in a complete show of disrespect. That also counts as destruction of private property, you clowns! If I were Jim Crockett Jr., I would have crying Ricky Steamboat, Magnum TA, Don Kernodle, and Keith Larsen all fined and suspended. I'd also order them to return the stolen property to the Koloffs, lest I inform the authorities of their crime myself. But the thing is, I'm not Jim Crockett Jr. In fact, when all 4 of those men returned to the backstage area, Jimbo probably congratulated them with a pat on the back and a handshake. There's a reason Mike Davis and Tommy Lane announced that they were quitting pro wrestling from Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's corruption, and you're looking at it, ladies and gentlemen, and it is not okay. Another man who's had tremendous issues with the way that Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling is being run, thanks in large part due to the fact that the boogie woogie maniac, Jimmy Valiant, is being allowed to return to the area for reasons unknown, is Paul Jones, as his client, superstar Billy Graham, takes on Rossi next. Graham is all over Rossi as soon as the bell rings, not even taking the time to remove his robe. The superstar then throws Rossi through the ropes and slams Ron against the guardrail a couple of times. Once back in the ring, Billy Graham continues his dominance, forcing Ron Rossi to submit with a full Nelson. Jim Crockett Jr.'s equally as corrupt brother, crotchety David Crockett, is going to have the privilege of speaking to the longest reigning NWA television champion up until this point, Tully Blanchard, who's brought his perfect 10 baby doll with him. In his heyday, Blanchard was a womanizer. Whoa, hey, his words, not mine.
You know, Tully Blanchard has a reputation of being quite a womanizer. You know, some of the people that I've been with might have been your wife, your sisters, maybe even some of your daughters.
All of that has changed now that Tully Blanchard has brought Baby Doll into his life, who he treats to the finest of luxuries. Flying in private jets, eating at the most luxurious and expensive restaurants you can imagine, and also satisfying Baby Doll in ways that no other man can. What a lucky woman. Half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions, the raging loser Manny Fernandez, takes on Joel Deaton one-on-one next. A hip toss leads to an arm drag takedown, which leads to a drop kick on Deaton from Fernandez. Wow, I didn't know he had it in him. Manny Fernandez then employs a wrist lock on Joel Deaton, who tries to break free with 2 forearms. However, a nasty chop from the raging loser keeps the NWA World Tag Team Champion in control. Fernandez then shortly after rebounds out of the corner, almost missing Deaton, but gets enough contact to get the 3 count. More singles action is next as the Inferno, who's benefiting from James J. Dillon's guidance in this match, takes on Dick Slater. And at this point, I'd just like to remind everyone that the Inferno holds a victory over Slater. Sure, he got thrown over the top rope and Slater was subsequently disqualified, but a win is a win. Dick Slater immediately guns it for James J. Dillon. However, the Red Menace gets in the way like any good employee should. But Slater is a man on a mission and easily turns the tables on the Inferno. Realizing now that the Inferno may be a sinking ship, James J. Dillon abandons him and heads to the backstage area, all shortly before Dick Slater walks away with a win following a suplex and an elbow drop. Backstage, crotchety David Crockett this time has the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, who is taking the time to address the Chief Wahoo McDaniel situation. No, not the one with Magnum TA, the one between Flair and the Chief. Ric Flair addresses the fact that Chief Wahoo McDaniel recently ambushed him and says that the Chief can do anything he wants to the Nature Boy, but someday soon, Ric Flair is going to put an end to Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Are you sure about that?
This is mine until you show me different. Woo!
The main event of NWA Worldwide Wrestling features 2 very angry Russians, as Ivan and Nikita Koloff are up against Lee Ramsey and Gene Ligon. I seriously hope that both Ramsey and Ligon have filled out their life insurance forms. Immediately, the Russian Nightmare drapes Ramsey over the top rope, who immediately then retreats to tag in Ligon, who hits Nikita Koloff with a couple of forearms, which have absolutely no effect. The adrenaline from the Russian Nightmare's anger is nullifying the pain, which scares the crap out of Gene Ligon, so he runs back to his corner to tag back in Lee Ramsey. Two backbreakers from the Russian greet Lee Ramsey upon his re-entry into the squared circle. And from there, neither Lee Ramsey nor Gene Ligon can do anything to stop the onslaught of Ivan and Nikita Koloff before Nikita Koloff secures the win with a brutal but devastating and effective clothesline. To wrap up NWA Worldwide Wrestling, crotchety David Crockett practically opens up a bottle of champagne and celebrates with Magnum TA, crying Ricky Steamboat, and the shame of the USA Don Kernodle. Magnum states that Chief Wahoo McDaniel has lost his way. How would you know? And then once more asks the Chief for a shot at the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. Hey, Magnum, I checked. It's still 1985, not 1990. Steamboat then chimes in with the most brain-dead statement of the entire week.
I've been there for you. I'll be there again. The United States has never lost a war. All you Americans out there, I want you to believe in Don Kernodle.
The USA has never lost a war? 1812 would say otherwise, and unless you want your White House burned down a second time, you will stop angering us Canadians. Vince McMahon and the living legend Bruno Sammartino greet us on WWF Championship Wrestling and call the action between the Junkyard Dog and Johnny Rodz in singles action. Rodz immediately tries a Tully Blanchard style delay tactic by going outside of the ring. However, JYD simply slingshots him back in. Johnny Rodz tries to fight back by punching the mangy mutt right in his ugly face. However, a single return punch from the dog, followed by a headbutt, knock Rodz silly. The Junkyard Dog then bites Johnny Rodz in the midsection and somehow doesn't get disqualified by the dumb referee and goes on to hit the thump, getting the 3 count. I have been so excited about the WWF update, as I alluded to a little bit of it at the beginning of the episode. And despite my grievances with what happened on NWA Worldwide Wrestling, I'm still having a fantastic week. And you're about to find out why. Last week, Lord Awful Alfred Hayes promised us that he would go further into what happened on December 28th, 1984 at Madison Square Garden. Supposedly, Roddy Piper caused a disruption so big that it completely ruined Cyndi Lauper's honor ceremony. Well, I wouldn't say that he ruined it. In fact, I would say he made it so much better by getting rid of that geek, that wimp, that loser of a boyfriend to Cyndi Lauper, David Wolff.
Cyndi Lauper, is there any chance that we can talk to David? I know you're concerned. Right now, concern being expressed by...
Everybody's shocked by that action.
Shocked and pleased. We'll find out even more of what happened on next week's WWF Update. Peter Pompell takes on Bobby the Brain Heenan's client, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, one-on-one next. And the animals in the crowd immediately get on the case of both Heenan and Orndorff with chants of
Oh no. Oh no. That's what they're chanting.
And
Oh no, they're yelling weasel now.
respectively. Give me a break. Since the clowns wanna hoot and holler, Bobby Heenan goes underneath the ring and pulls out a stretcher. If you're Pompell right now, you're making peace with whatever deity you believe in. Peter Pompell is absolutely decimated by Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who walks away with an easy win following a pile driver, before Bobby Heenan lays the stretcher out next to Pompell in a gesture of incredible thoughtfulness. Yesterday, the magnificent Muraco returned to the World Wrestling Federation proper, leaving the beautiful and majestic Hawaii behind for the desolate wasteland that is the mainland United States. we're graced by Muraco's presence again as he, accompanied by his manager Mr. Fuji, faces off against Aldo Marino next. The Magnificent One immediately gets to work by body slamming Marino before hitting a Russian leg sweep on Aldo. The Magnificent Muraco then hangs his opponent up into the corner for delivering some brutal knees to the gut of Marino. I hope Aldo Marino had a light lunch. A dropkick meets Marino as he comes off of the ropes seconds later before the Magnificent Muraco comes away with the win following a modified tombstone piledriver. Absolutely merciless. The last time Andre the Giant was on Piper's pit, the 8th Wonder of the World refused to answer any of Roddy Piper's questions like he was some kind of uncultured swine. Hopefully, the big man plays ball this time, lest Piper's new bodyguard, Cowboy Bob Orton, be forced to make the Frenchman talk.
Hello? Hello?
Hey, that chair costs more than your education. It was a terrible thing that Andre the Giant suffered at the hands of Bobby the Brain Heenan, Big John Studd, and Ken Patera several weeks ago. So terrible that the 8th Wonder of the World ended up losing some of his hair, which has thankfully grown back and now has been properly styled so he doesn't look like a gorilla. Both Roddy Piper and Bob Orton have been fans of Andre the Giant for quite some time, and not only take the time to sympathize with the 8th Wonder of the World, but show their proper respect to him as well.
I want you to say, sir, I want you to say, Mr. Giant.
Mr. Giant, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. What an idiot. Are you kidding me? I've seen John Studd right beside me, and John Studd is bigger than Andre the Giant. The bigger they are, the tinier the brain.
Big and dumb, unlike John Studd, who is giant and smart. Jose Luis Rivera takes on a newcomer to the WWF, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who shares a manager in common with the Magnificent Muraco and Mr. Fuji. If that's the case, this Neidhart might be something special. Jose Luis Rivera turns his back on Jim Neidhart once the bell rings, so the Anvil strikes. Neidhart then throws his opponent over the top rope like he weighs nothing more than 20 pounds. Talk about impressive! Rivera manages to dodge a clothesline before going on to hit Neidhart with a dropkick. But it's all for naught as the Anvil manages to hit Rivera in the face with a boot before hitting a power slam, securing Mr. Fuji's man the 3. I like this guy already. The main event of WWF Championship Wrestling sees Joe Craney go head-to-head with Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who takes his time getting into the ring considering he's more preoccupied with shaking the dirty hands of the animals in the crowd. When the match finally does begin, Superfly seems to be in some kind of a daze, almost moving in slow motion at times. Snuka does go on to hit Jeff Craney with a backbreaker before heading up to the top rope and finishing the week with a victory for Jimmy Snuka following a diving splash. David Wolff couldn't hack it as a manager in professional wrestling, even when handed the hottest 3-man tag team in the Fabulous Freebirds. David Wolff can't hack it as a boyfriend, even when dating the hottest pop star in the world at this time. And David Wolff won't be able to hack it at all, even if he is able to recover from the injuries he sustained at the hands of my hero, Roddy Piper. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. Make sure you hack it as a viewer by liking the video, hitting the bell, and subscribing. You can also follow me on social media where it is 1985 in pro wrestling all over again. That's it for now, so I'll see you next week. So long. From there, Magnum TA takes the home. Where is he taking the home? But also, show respect. Make sure you show respect too. And then hits. He sure does.